Hey y'all, I'm Alex and I want to talk about heated rivalry. Specifically, that heated rivalry is not enemies to lovers, it's fear to intimacy. First off, let's talk about this rivalry and heated rivalry. The rivalry is simply used as a cover for their obsession with each other. Shane and Ilya have quite literally never been enemies, not from the rookie season to where they are now in the show. They have been fixated on each other from the start. And that fixation went from infatuation to full out love within 6 episodes. And I think the rivalry that the media has put on them just kind of gives them a cover to obsess over each other. And it keeps them from really having to dig deep as to why they're obsessed with each other. But you can see in those first 2 episodes that these two, honestly, the first episode, you can see that these two are constantly looking for each other on and off the ice. They are hyper aware of each other. I mean, from the intro scene where you have them both on the ice with their teams and the other watching them from the stands. Shane and his mom watching Ilya, and then Ilya watching Shane by himself. You have the scene where they're talking to the team owners with their parents and they still somehow manage to make eye contact. That's an insane moment to me, because how, in a situation like that, y'all have only spoken to each other a handful of times and only one of those conversations was in private, and y'all managed to find each other, your eyes managed to find each other in a room. Get the fuck out of here. The first episode does such a good job painting how aware of each other they are. Like, it does not matter where in the room they are, these two will find each other. And honestly, the way it's shown in the episode, it's almost like instinctual at this point, like, which is crazy because again, they don't know each other that well. They barely interacted, but it's already becoming like a reflex for them to find each other in the room. And then you even have at the end of the episode where after Shane wins Rookie of the Year, you have him looking for Ilya. Like, he knows Ilya is not in that room, despite the fact that he just panicked over the idea, over the insinuation that Scott Hunter would think they're even anything more than rivals. He's still looking for Ilya, which I also think his reaction to Scott saying, "Oh, where's your boy Rosanov?" I think that just reinforces the idea that Shane really is using the cover of a rivalry for their interactions. Despite this rivalry that they're using as a cover, they were never once enemies. When I think enemies to lovers, I think of couples like Damon and Elena from Vampire Diaries. Now, did Damon ever view Elena as an enemy? Not really. He was kind of infatuated with her from the start. I mean, we know he saw her first, but Elena definitely hated Damon. There were many instances where Damon absolutely broke Elena's heart, betrayed her trust, put her or her family in danger. Like, that was real enemies to lovers, even if it was more on the one-sided part. When I think enemies to lovers, I'm thinking of people causing real harm to each other, whether physical or psychological, but just actually terrorizing each other, because that's the conflict that would need to be resolved in the end, that they are enemies. The contrast with Shane and Ilya, the only thing they're really fighting is their fear of being around each other and what that could mean. Going off of Damon and Elena, when I think of enemies to lovers, I'm thinking of couples who are truly at moral oppositions from each other. You know what I mean? And I don't think this is necessarily heated rivalry's fault, or like Rachel Reed or the publisher's fault for marketing this as an enemies to lovers, because in my personal opinion, I don't think enemies to lovers works in any sort of like modern contemporary type romance setting. It doesn't. To me, enemies to lovers really only works in like a mafia AU romance, a fantasy romance, vampires, werewolves, like things like that, because you can't really be enemies unless Shane and Ilya were actually like constantly fighting on and off the ice. Like, we saw them, you know, paparazzi were catching them fighting at the club, or, you know, Shane broke Ilya's leg, you know, something like that. Then maybe I could buy into the enemies idea, because I think there is a bit more room for that in the sports world as opposed to just like an office romance. But either way, I think it's really hard to truly sell that enemies to lovers in any sort of modern setting. But it's especially harder with Shane and Ilya because they quite literally never disliked each other. When you think of the first episode, think of that shower scene, right? Shane is very determined to not look at Ilya. And when you look at how Ilya comes into the scene, he's faded. Like, he's blurry while Shane is like rinsing his hair out. And I thought that was such a good way to kind of have him enter the scene, because it's almost like he's constantly in the back of Shane's mind, right? And whether that was intentional or not, who knows? I truly dig into the show in a way that's probably concerning to a mental health professional. I digress. But it really does feel like he's in the back of Shane's mind all the time, this early on, and then he comes into focus, right? And I think in that shower scene, you really get to see Shane struggle for the first time. Like when they were in the gym, a lot of that stuff could be dismissed. You know, granted, the tension was high. You could cut the tension with a knife in that room when they were in the gym. But the shower scene, there is no denying it. And not Shane, Ilya doesn't even give Shane a chance to deny it. He makes it very clear, you're not hiding from this. You're not hiding from me. I see your reaction physically, but I also want you to know that I'm reciprocating it. And I actually really like the fact that Ilya, I like the fact that the story isn't, you know, kind of chasing an unrequited love for a while. It is very obvious that these two are into each other and just as down bad for each other as the other. You know what I mean? From the beginning. Now, I think the difference though is that in the beginning, Ilya already has kind of like that smug cockiness over his experience sexually, right? Like he's already been with a man. So this is nothing new for him. Granted, he doesn't have a lot of experience, but he's been with the man, right? And the fact that he was willing to even broach this subject in a public shower, insanity to me. But I think you see Shane, you see the fear really coming through with Shane, right? Whether it's being caught, whether it's the fact that he's looking at a man, whether it's the fact that he's looking at a man and a man's looking at him, whether it's the fact that he's looking at a man's looking at him, and this is very clearly sexual. Like there's no denying what's going on here. And then also the fact that this is now an opportunity for Shane. I don't think he's ever been presented with an opportunity prior to this. And when you go on to the locker scene where it truly becomes an opportunity, because I mean, Shane even says, not here. Ilya takes that as, okay, just not here. Where's your room? So I think the fear is almost palpable when you look at Shane sometimes, especially in the early episodes, because Ilya is so nonchalant with this hookup, whereas Shane, you can feel the stress coming through the screen. Like when he's waiting in his room for Ilya to come over, he's sitting down, he's standing up, he's in a suit, he takes the suit off, he turns the lights on, turns them off, TV on, TV off. Like he is truly stressed out. And I think it's a great way to showcase kind of his like tendencies as someone who's neurodivergent. Like you can feel that anxiety, that stress, and him kind of stumbling over, how do I handle this? What do I do? And this just further proves that fear is the actual antagonist of this story. It's not Shane, it's not Ilya. I think when you label something as enemies to lovers, the audience can't help but try to pick a villain in the story. So people are trying to decide, oh, is it Shane? Is it Ilya? Because this, because that. When the reality is fear is the villain, homophobia is the villain, society is the villain. Shane and Ilya are not the villain, they are the victims, okay? That's why I think labeling it as fear to intimacy, like fear is the thing they need to conquer. They're not enemies trying to conquer each other. They're trying to conquer fear to get to that intimacy, right? The first probably 4, maybe 5.5 episodes of this show, they were constantly going back and forth. There was a push and pull between the two of them, right? One of them would show some sort of vulnerability, intimacy, and the other one would run nonstop. Like it was continuous after that first episode, right? First episode, very casual, just hook up, you know, it is what it is, right? That second episode though, after they sleep together for the first time, which y'all, let me tell you, I have seen these episodes so many times. I'm happy HBO Max does not do a yearly wrap because I would be embarrassed. Right? That being said, there is a moment where after they sleep together and they're just kind of like chilling in bed, there's a moment where Ilya looks at Shane. And it's after like Shane kisses him on the forehead. And let me tell y'all something. I did not clock that look the first like 2, maybe 3 times I watched it. But when I finally did, I was ready to throw up. Are you kidding me? That's the way he's looking at this man. And there are still people out there who saw that and thought to themselves, Ilya doesn't like Shane. What? Are you insane? These two are so down bad for each other. But I think when you look at what happens in episode 2, right? You have that moment where they're incredibly vulnerable, incredibly intimate with each other. And then the end of the episode, we didn't even kiss. we didn't even kiss haunts me. I think episode 2 is a great example of episode 2 and episode 4 are two really good examples of how they push and pull, right? So you have Ilya, you have both of them, Ilya and Shane, intimate moment when they sleep together for the first time. And then the end of the episode, Ilya is so emotionally cold and distant. I mean, even the fact that he kind of ghosted Shane for 6 months, right? You have the bathroom scene. Like, it is very much a push and pull. Every time they're tender with each other, they're vulnerable with each other, one or the other has to run. And then you have episode 4 where Ilya is kind of showing that vulnerability that Shane was looking for in episode 2. And Shane's the one who runs. And, oh God, it's devastating. I love this show so much. I love it. 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 I want to inject it into my veins. But when you look at how the push and pull and the way they go back and forth with each other, it is fear that is the reason why they're reacting this way. Fear is quite literally the cause of everything, all of their problems. It's fear. Fear is what is replacing this, like, the traditional villain that most people get in a story, right? It's not their friends meddling in their relationship, keeping them apart. It's not, the parents saying, oh, this is a forbidden love, you can't be with him. It's not, it's none of that. There is no villain. There's not an ex-girlfriend, there's a wife. It's none of that, right? Or even a boyfriend. It's none of that. It is fear. Fear is the villain here. When you look at, and then to look at it specifically from Shane and Ilya's point of view, right? Shane's fear really comes from wanting something that he didn't know he wanted, right? I think where Ilya has already come to terms with the fact that he's bisexual, he's accepted this, he's already gone through all of that, right? Shane is just now coming to terms with the fact that he's gay. And I think from the audience perspective, it's a bit easier to follow that struggle of a man who thought he was straight up until now and, struggling with coming to terms that he is gay. The life that he thought he wanted, he doesn't want anymore. The wife, kids, I don't think Shane was ever that traditional, but you know what I mean? Like he there's a level of, I guess, mourning that comes with that. I don't know. Or just a level of realization that the thing that he thought he wanted, he doesn't actually want. And what he actually wants scares the shit out of him. And I think because he's just now coming to terms with this, I think a lot of people misinterpret him as being almost like emotionally unavailable or emotionally unintelligent. And I think that is such a misunderstanding of Shane's character, especially episode 4. That's where a lot of the, oh, he's leading Ilya on, all that came up on like social media and stuff. But I think it's such a gross misinterpretation of Shane's character. One, we have to take into the fact that Shane is going to communicate differently, right? He's neurodivergent. He is going to communicate differently. So it's not the fact that he can't communicate his emotions, is that he's going to do it differently, right? And again, there's still a lot of fear going on in these episodes, like the first 5 episodes, right? I think Shane is so painfully aware of everything he is feeling all at once and probably assuming what other people are feeling, that it's painful, like it overwhelms him, right? I mean, take the bathroom scene, for example, in episode 2. He walks into the room, he's feeling a lot of highly intense emotions, right? He's just interacted with Ilya for the first time in 6 months. He needs a moment to himself. He goes into this bathroom and the first thing he does is look under all the stalls to make sure he's alone. And then he still doesn't break down. He just kind of just needs that moment to himself, that quiet moment, right? And even when you look at, and that's just an example of him being aware of his emotions, but him being aware of like Ilya's emotions, for example, in episode 1, when they're in the press conference, he picks up on the fact that Ilya can't really answer the reporter's question. I think Shane picking up on the fact that Ilya needs help right then and there shows that he's not just in tune with his own emotions, but Ilya's as well. And that continues throughout the whole show. I mean, we don't even see Shane truly let go with his emotions. And by truly let go, I just mean cry, like actually shed a tear, until episode 6. And when he was crying, it was when Ilya said, I love you. It was when they said, I love you for the first time. And then when he's talking to his mom and his mom apologizes. Those are the only 2 times I can recall him actually shedding a tear, right? And a part of me wonders if the reason why Shane keeps the tears from actually falling, which shout out to Hudson Williams, literally a phenomenal actor. I cannot think of anyone who could have played this role better. But I think the way he's so restrained with his emotions just kind of I wonder if he thinks that means he's still in control. You know what I mean? Because Shane has a high need for control. We see it with his diet, his routine, the pressure that he's under from all these brand deals, his mom. Like, he needs control desperately. And I think him keeping, I mean, you saw him hold his emotions back when he was watching Ilya win the cup for the first time. Like, I don't know. I just think thinking that Shane is not in tune with his or Ilya's emotions is insane. I think Shane is just simply struggling with the fact that the life he thought he wanted, he doesn't want anymore. And not only does he not want it, but he has the opportunity to get this new life that he wants in a way. So I think that's his struggle. And then you have Ilya, right? Ilya's fear is a bit different from Shane's, right? They both have the fear of the NHL finding out, but where Shane is, if the NHL finds out, the worst that will happen is that he could lose his contract and he won't play anymore, which again, devastating. I'm not downplaying that. But where Ilya's concerned, the same would happen, but then he would also face repercussions in Russia. And I think Ilya's fear comes from the fact that he can't control how he feels about Shane. Ilya understands desire. He understands, has no problem with wanting someone physically, but the idea of loving someone scares the shit out of him. He has no idea how to handle it. And you see that again with the way they push and pull with each other. He's vulnerable one minute, Shane runs, or Shane's vulnerable, then he runs. Like, it's constantly push and pull. But Ilya hates the fact that he's in love with Shane. And despite that, he doesn't want to change it. He would never change the fact that he's in love with Shane. He even says it. He was like, I never, ever want that problem to go away. He loves Shane to such a sickening amount. It's not even funny. Like, he loves this man bad. But because he loves him, Ilya has to come to terms with the fact that the life he could have, like that easier life, the heteronormative life, because he is a bisexual man, he could easily meet a woman, have kids, have that, make his country, his family proud. That is an option for him. But the reality is he doesn't want it. He wants the man he loves, and that's Shane Hollander. And I think with Ilya, because he's not struggling with the sexuality side, he's struggling with a lot of internal things. I think maybe it's a bit harder for the audience to like make the connection of what he's struggling with. I don't know. I'm just assuming because I didn't struggle, so I'm just assuming, right? I don't know, because to me it's very blatantly obvious that he has been in love with Shane for years, and he does not play about Shane. He loves Shane, and it's almost killing him how much he loves Shane. And you really see it in episode 5 during his monologue when he's speaking in Russian. That scene was devastating, because he says, I love Svetlana, but not like I love you. Because he knows that if he was with Svetlana, life would be easier. But the reality is, he doesn't love Svetlana that way. And he doesn't, right? He loves Shane. Oh my God, the monologue in Russian, Connor's story. Let me tell you, everyone needs to be happy that Heated Rivalry can't qualify for an Emmy. Like, it can't be nominated, because it would have been a clean sweep, okay? A clean sweep. I also think when it comes to Ilya, because he already came to terms with his sexuality before Shane did, like years before he met Shane, he came to the understanding of like what's at stake a lot earlier than Shane, right? So I think while we're seeing Shane process these things, this is the first time he's truly thought about it. We're not seeing that with Ilya because he already has. Like, this isn't something Ilya has to think over and spiral over, because he already has done that. He knows it. He knows the risks. So I do think that also maybe plays a part too, and why people want to pin Ilya as the villain. Or why people want to pin Shane as villain, who knows? But I think that journey from fear to intimacy is what makes this story so addictive. It's like we're in a continuous loop of like these almost love confessions, these almost next steps, these almost, they admit their feelings for each other. It's nonstop. Like, even though this show was only 6 episodes long, Jacob Tierney, the actors, everyone did a great job of bringing such a long story, because even though the book's not long, they cover a large amount of time. I think from Heated Rivalry to The Long Game is 11 years, and I think Heated Rivalry is 7, if I recall that correctly. So that's nearly a decade covered in 6 episodes, and I think they did a great job covering it. When it comes to Heated Rivalry, we have that guaranteed happily ever after which is why the books are so popular. But also I think why it transferred so well to the show, because we're seeing them struggle. We're seeing the ups and downs of their situationships and relationship, and then we see the payoff. And it's a payoff that's worth it. It's not a payoff where it's, the feelings are uneven, like one likes each other more than the other, or one cheated on the other. Like there's none of that. It is just purely a happily ever after. I love it. I love it. I love it. All that being said, though, calling this story enemies to lovers to me really misses the point and honestly downplays a huge chunk of this story and what makes this story special. When I think of enemies to lovers, there needs to be a conflict, and there needs to actually be hatred within that relationship at some point. And those two never had that. They only had the conflict, right? And the conflict, like I said before, is their fear. We're going from the fear to intimacy, and that is the goal. It's intimacy. It's not them being together physically. That's easy, honestly. That's why it happened in the first episode, in the first 14 pages of the book, right? That's easy. The intimacy is the struggle, and that's the goal. Maybe fear to intimacy isn't the best label, but I just think a lot of pieces of media are mislabeled as enemies to lovers, and it's almost a disservice to the couple and the relationship you watch. Because at the end of the day, Shane and Ilya were never fighting with each other. They're fighting the part of themselves that wants more. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I will have more videos about Heated Rivalry to come. Thanks.